Jake here for American Trucks, and today I'm taking a look at the Morimoto XBG LED upper replacement grille with white daytime running lights in paintable black, fitting 2018 to 2020 F-150s excluding the Raptor. Now Morimoto stuff always impresses, and this grille is no exception. Keeps a similar OEM or maybe even an OEM Plus type of style while bringing in something just a bit different and adding some additional lighting. Whether you're rocking halogens, factory LEDs, or something aftermarket, this is the perfect way to inject an additional dose of style that's going to set your truck apart from the rest of the pack. At first glance, you'd be forgiven for mistaking this for a factory grille, and that is totally intentional. Morimoto kept the dual crossbar style design here, and it's going to integrate with the F-150 styling about as seamlessly as you can get. That's a theme that we'll see continued throughout here. Now these slats here are removable, they just unscrew from the back, so you can take them out and change them up if you wish. Now this one is finished in this glossy, quote-unquote, paintable black. So you could leave it exactly as it is. This is how it comes straight out of the box, but the intention here is that you'll paint it, wrap it, customize it somehow, something maybe contrasting or even body color to set it off or match just that little bit more. Now there is also an option for this same grille in a chrome finish as well, should you want to go that route, and that is also available on our site, so check that out if that's more your speed. But the bigger story here is the LED strips. Now this particular one we're looking at features the white daytime running light strips, although amber is also an option, and again, like the chrome version, you can find that on our site too, should that be more your style. Either way, the feature set is going to be the same. Now these are super bright, enough so that you will be able to see them from far off, even in broad daylight. Featuring Osram LEDs, you can bet that they are intense and they're going to last you a heck of a long time. Now, while that intensity might be great in the sunlight, you don't want to blind other drivers at night. Now, thankfully, Morimoto thought of that, and these are set up to dim automatically once you switch on your parking lights or headlights. There's no extra switch or anything to wire in either. They work right off of your factory headlight switch, and they do everything for you automatically. It's pretty trick stuff here. Another thing worth noting about those LED strips is that they are a perfect match to Morimoto's XB LED headlights, but they also complement the factory LED headlights or even the halogens well too, and they're going to look slick with any setup. So while you don't need to change your headlights to make this work, if you really do though, it's going to be a cohesive look that you're going to get. And of course, you've got a provision here to port over your grille badge as well, and it's going to add that OEM Plus look. Plus, this also comes with a matching trim ring to put around that, so it's going to make everything look nice and cohesive. Again, we're coming back to that really well integrated OEM Plus look. It's going to make everything really slick and clean looking. As you might expect, this is essentially an OEM quality setup too. Now the grille itself is made from ABS plastic, just like your factory one, and it's designed to swap in directly using all of your factory mounting points. So everything is going to look pretty much the same up top here, and you've got the clips on the bottom as well. Now the LEDs also feature a UV resistant polycarbonate lens over top, much like you'd find on a set of headlights, and they are sealed of course to keep out dirt and moisture. Now you might have noticed those wiring harnesses that we have here, and this is going to look like a little bit of a rat's nest, but these are all going to go together and string together and plug in. Plus you've got a supplementary one should your truck have the factory LED headlights, so it's going to make this a total plug and play operation. And that is why the price is on the higher side. Speaking of which, pricing for this one is going to come in at about $1,200, which is a pretty large bill for a front grille. Now it's not the most expensive option out there, but you are paying for the convenience of that easy installation as well as the super high quality materials. Installation itself is going to get a 1 out of 3, and this should take you about an hour to complete. Now, like I was talking about earlier, this is a total plug and play installation. You don't have to do any cutting or modifications to your truck, and you've got all the necessary harnesses included. Everything is also pre-wired right there, so you don't have to plug anything. You really just have to plug everything in and enjoy it. And to show you that process now, let's head on out to the shop.
Tools required for this install include a ratchet, a clip remover tool, a couple zip ties, needle nose pliers, scissors or diagonal cutters, an extension, 7, 8, 10, and 13 millimeter sockets, and some microfiber towels. What's up guys? Today we're installing a grille on our F-150, so let's get started. So our first step is to pop our upper radiator cover off so that we can remove our grille. We have a bunch of push clips up top that we'll use a clip remover tool to remove. So now we'll grab that clip tool and pop these out. So now we can lift up on our radiator trim and remove it. And then that exposes these 4 10mm bolts at the top of our grill that we can take a 10mm socket to remove. Next, we can disconnect our connectors at the top center of our grill. And then we have one push clip that we can use that same clip tool to pop out. So now we can come to the top center of our grill to remove our connectors. Now, usually there's a push clip right here. However, ours is broken off. So we'll just push in the tabs on our connectors to remove them. Lay that out of the way. Next, we need to remove this lower trim piece that goes underneath of our headlights. So in the wheel wells on both sides, we have 2 7mm bolts. So we'll take a 7mm socket to remove these. And then we'll do that same thing on the other side. So now we can pop off our lower trim piece. So we'll come to our wheel wells and just pull back on that to pop it out of the clip. And then we can pop that out on the other side. And then with both sides popped out, we should be able to just wiggle this free. So now right on the corner of the bottom of our grill, we have a bolt on each side. They're gonna be 13mm. So we'll take a 13mm socket to remove them. And then we'll do that same thing on the other side. So now with all of our bolts removed, we can pull straight back on the grill to remove it. So now that we have our factory grill removed, we're gonna have to pop out our passenger side headlight to install our adapter harness. It's gonna plug into one of the connectors on the back of the headlight and then give us power to our LED strips on our new grill. So we have a couple bolts and a push clip up top and a few bolts at the bottom that we need to remove. So starting at the top, we have 2 10mm bolts and a push clip that we need to remove. So we'll take a clip remover tool to pop our push clip out. And then a 10mm socket to remove our 2 bolts. Now coming towards the bottom, we have 2 10mm bolts and an 8mm bolt that we need to remove. So we'll grab our 10mm socket to pop these out. And then we'll swap to our 8mm socket for our last one. And now with all of our bolts removed, we can wheel our headlight out of place. Next, we can come back to our fuse box and pop the lids off. So we'll push in that tab, pop that out, and then our second cover. Now we're going to be looking for our number 36 fuse, which is this 10 amp right next to this larger 20. So we'll grab a pair of needle nose pliers and pull that fuse out. And then we can grab our fuse tap and put that into the same spot that we just took that fuse out of. And now with our fuse tap in place, we can reinstall our covers. So now we can go back to our headlight. Now this connector right here, we're going to be popping out. So we can press in that tab and pull on it. We're going to be plugging our connector into there. And then our larger black connector is going to be going right where our first one came out. And then we can take the wire from our fuse tap and run that down into our headlight bucket. And we'll be connecting it to this connector with the blue wire. Now our last two connectors are going to connect to our grille for our LED lights. So we'll just run those through this little gap and over towards the grille. And then we can slide our headlight back into place. And then we can get our hardware installed. So now we can come up top and reinstall our push clip, followed by our two 10mm bolts. And then we'll tighten those two down with our 10mm socket. Now coming to the bottom, we can reinstall our 3 bolts. And then we'll tighten down the first two with our 10mm socket. And then we'll switch to our 8mm socket for our last bolt. Now we can come back towards our fuse box and zip tie up all of our excess wiring. Then you can use a pair of scissors or diagonal cutters to chop off the excess of your zip tie. And we'll just tuck this right down next to the battery out of the way. So now before we install our new grill, we're going to need to transfer over some things from our stock grill. So we're going to start with the shutter assembly. We've got two 10mm nuts on each side that we need to remove. So we'll grab a 10mm socket with an extension to get these off. And then we'll do that same thing on the other side. Next we can remove the 5 push clips at the top of our grill. So we'll grab a clip remover tool to pop these out. Now on the bottom of the grill, we have 3 clips that we're gonna have to depress, and then we can pop our shutter assembly off. So you can use a flathead screwdriver, or I still have the clip remover tool handy. So let's press that in. And now with all of our hardware removed and our clips popped at the bottom, we can just pull up to remove our shutter assembly. And now we can remove our emblem. It's held on by these 3 10mm nuts. So we'll grab a 10mm socket to take those out. And now the last things we need to remove from our factory grill are our 4 studs, as well as our 3 clips at the bottom. So we'll just press in on the tabs on our studs and slide those out. And then these bottom clips will just pop right out. If you're having trouble, you can get that clip remover tool along the back side. So now with our new grill on the table, we can start to install all the parts that we removed from our stock one. So we'll start with our studs that we can just slide in. And then we'll do that same thing on this side. Next, we can install our clips on the bottom. These will just press into place. Next, we can reinstall our emblem. So slide that into place, and then we can reinstall our 3 nuts. And we'll tighten those down with our 10mm socket. Next, we can reinstall our shutter assembly, and then we'll put our 4 nuts onto our studs and replace the 1 screw in the middle. Now, our screw was missing, so we won't be reinstalling ours. Make sure you keep your wires out of the way when laying this down. And we can push our clips in. And we'll reinstall our nuts. So now we'll thread our 2 10mm nuts onto those studs. And then tighten those down with a 10mm socket. And then we'll do that same thing on the other side. So now finally we can reinstall the 5 push clips at the top of our grill. So now we're ready to install our new grill onto the truck. So the first thing we're going to do is take those 2 connectors from our headlight splitter harness and plug them in. Now with those plugged in, we can shove that back behind the headlight to clean up our wiring. So now we can just line up our grill and slide it into place. So now we can come down to the lower corner of our grill and reinstall our bolts. So we'll thread that in and then tighten that down with our 13mm socket. And then we'll do that same thing on the other side. So now we can reinstall our lower trim. We'll get that lined up, slid into place. And then clip our sides into place. And now we can come back to our wheel well and reinstall our two 7mm screws. And then we can grab our 7mm socket to tighten those down. And then we'll do that same thing on the other side. Now coming back to the top of our grill, we can reinstall our four 10mm bolts. And then we'll take our 10mm socket to tighten these all down. Next, we can reconnect our two connectors. We'll just push those down until they click. And lastly, we can reinstall our radiator cover. Slide that under our intake. And then we can reinstall all of our push clips. So that'll wrap up this review and install of the Morimoto XBG LED upper replacement grill with white DRL and paintable black for your 2018 to 2020 F-150, excluding the Raptor. Thank you for watching, and for all things F-150, keep it right here at AmericanTrucks.com.